Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today. It's a joy to be with you today. We're streaming on am950radio.com and live streaming on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe there. Like and subscribe. Become my friend. Become my friend. Like and subscribe, and please share the show. And also, I need you to go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. Please like and subscribe there. But really, just like the show and pass it on. Pass it on, everybody. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. And then I'm on X at Santita J and the Santita J Show. So let's get to it with one of my heroes. I'm so excited that he is with us today as we talk about really true freedom fighters, people who put their lives on the line for decades. You cannot leave this man's name off of the rolls. Indeed, he's really like family to me. He's been on the show before, but he is like family. But he is also one of the most brilliant strategists in American politics and has been for half a century. He's also done something that many people were afraid to do. He stood for human rights and specifically for the rights of the Palestinian whose name we dare not mention up until recently, very recently, really over the past 2 years and certainly over the past year. And so we welcome to the show the founder of the Arab American Institute, Jim Zogby, Dr. James Zogby, who was also he was one of the please he helped run the Jesse Jackson presidential campaigns. Got my father into all that trouble. Shame on you. But we're still here alive to tell the
Oh my
tale.
dear. Oh my
No,
dear.
yes,
He got me into trouble. I was just an innocent bystander.
oh my gosh, you always have to watch it when people say that, but
Yeah.
innocent bystander. But I just have to salute your courage, which you know I've just seen it just down through the years, and I want to thank you for that. Let's
Well, thank
start
you.
here. You and your brother have done just really such excellent polling. And you have really been able to tap into the vein of truth for of the American voter for decades. Let's talk about this new poll on Arab Americans and the Arab American voter. I'm so glad to see now that the Arab American voter is really being looked at. Your positions on issues, where you stand, and you're being viewed rightly as a critical mass in this election. What is your finding in this poll?
Well, we've been polling Arab Americans since the 90s. We started, I think the first time we did a national poll was in 94. Um, and we did so because running an institute, we kind of wanted to know what the contours were, where people stood on issues, so that we'd have a better sense of how we're representing them. Uh, we we found over the years that they leaned Democratic in the beginning. During the Bush years, the margin between Democrat and Republican went 2-1 Democrat. It stayed that way for 15 years, and now for the first time, they're back to almost even, actually dead even. And it is Gaza. Gaza is looming large over this election for Arab American voters. And I guess I knew Gaza is an important issue. What's happening in the Middle East is important. But, when we'd ask people the question, what are the three most important issues for you in this election? We've been asking that for 30 years. And what we'd always get is pretty much what the rest of the nation was saying. Jobs in the economy, education, healthcare, etc. This is the first time that a Middle East issue, in particular Gaza, was up into the top three. And among Democrats, it was the top issue. This issue has been painful for the community. It is a genocide. They're seeing it play out. They're seeing total insensitivity on the part of the administration to it, and it's taken a toll. And the toll is that, Joe Biden won 2-1, 59-30 over Trump in the last election, 2020. Trump is up over Harris by 1 point, 42-41. And I'll tell you what, that's an improvement because in April, when we polled Trump and Biden, Biden was at 17%. I've never seen a shift like this that dramatic over an issue as I have seen in this one. And I've been trying to talk to people in the Democratic Party, pay attention here, because look, you're right. I mean, when we started working with your dad, he used to call Arab Americans in Michigan his secret weapon because he won Michigan in '88 and Super Tuesday at the same time. But it was Michigan that gave a big boost because he won a Midwest industrial state. And it was Arab Americans who helped put him over the top. It failed to be recognized by the rest of the party, the rest of the country, but it is right now. It's a battleground state. You got to win Michigan if you're a Democrat. That's the way you put together the Electoral College map. And they're ignoring the community. They're just ignoring it. And I just don't get it.
Please help me to understand that, because when the polling, what did the poll reflect? I mean, what specifically? Where are people? Because I have seen there are some Palestinian Americans, specifically, and some Arab Americans. We've got Rania Patrice with us in the waiting room because she's going to respond to all of this because, of course, she's out campaigning. They have said, well, this is realpolitik. I'm willing to make this compromise, even though my heart is breaking. But then I saw another Palestinian American activist, and I have to tell you, I'm going to send you the link to what he said on X, and it broke my heart. He said, I am not going to step over 200,000 Palestinians because I am afraid of Trump. And he reminds me of quite frankly, a lot of Black people. Like, wait a minute. We were in slavery. So, yeah, I mean, one person is not going to frighten me. The Trump argument's not working.
There is that sense. And I think there's a deep hurt. There's an anger. And there's a sense of punishing Democrats by voting for Trump. There have been some bogus polls out there that show Jill Stein getting 45%. They did an email to their members. You can't call that a poll. There have been a couple of SMS surveys. They're about as real as when Twitter poll, but they got a lot of press attention, I guess, because the community does seem to matter, at least in the press. But when we did this poll, what we found was that people who should be Democrats, who've always been Democrats, were either not voting or they were voting for Trump, again, as a way to punish Democrats. And that's something that personally, I don't think that's a good idea. I think, and I keep saying to the campaign, we don't want him to set foot near the White House again. It's a danger, not just to the world and the country, but to my community. It's a danger. I mean, we saw what he did last time. We saw what he did to all of our allies in the Black community, in the Asian community, and the immigrant community generally, to others. I do not want to see that happen, but they got to help us, and they're not helping us. There's so little recognition of the need to reach out. It seems almost as if they decided Liz Cheney's going to get them more votes than Arab Americans are going to. And I don't get the judgment call. Your dad used to call it the smart ass white boys. Yeah. The problem is that they're not all boys and they're not all white right now. But there's this consultant class that thinks they're smarter than God, and they got it all figured out. We'll use Liz Cheney, and we'll have everybody, including left-handed steeple climbers, speak at the convention because they have to get every demographic covered. But Palestinian, we don't need a Palestinian to speak. That might be controversial and a problem. And they had some deplorable people up there on stage. But we asked for a Palestinian who'd lost family members in Gaza. They couldn't bring themselves to do it. And I don't understand the judgments that they're making. And I hope they don't pay the price, because we'll all pay the price. I mean, I want to paraphrase Colin Powell, what he said about Palestinians. He said we can't want a state more than they do. For them, we can't want her to win more than she wants to win. And if she's not willing to go to Michigan and just say to an Arab American audience, I'm here in Michigan, I want your vote, and I know we have some differences of opinion, but I promise you that I will talk to you, care for you, respect you, and we'll try to work this out. I need your vote. I mean, that's all she has to do. Just a simple respect and recognition, but they haven't been able to do that.
But who are most resistant to voting for her? Is it the young? Is it
Here's the
women?
thing. Here's the thing. No, it's women are supporting her more than men,
Mhm.
which is logical because there are some very clear issues here for women in this election. And Donald Trump is a danger to women in more than one way. Um, the, the interesting thing is that, and we find this not only with Arabs, but we find it with blacks and Latinos, because we don't have a party structure in America anymore. We have labels, Democrat and Republican, and they're more sort of feeling labels than they are organizations. I mean, my mom was a precinct captain. I used to go door to door with her. Precinct captains don't exist. Ward leaders don't exist. The organized structure of the party doesn't exist. Being a Democrat or a Republican means you're on an email list, a mail list, a robocall list. Um, and it's a feeling. I feel like I'm a Democrat, or whatever. Now, people my age who grew up Democrat have a strong party ID, but immigrants don't, and younger voters don't. And so what we're finding is that, unlike the rest of the country, where you would think immigrants would be deadly opposed to Donald Trump, or that young people would be deadly opposed to Donald Trump, younger voters and immigrant voters are not as inclined to be for the Democrat as they should be, given what's at stake in the election. And so that's where some of the attrition is. That's where the failure to identify as Democrat is, because they just don't feel there's a difference. And they don't feel there's a difference because of, like that young Palestinian said to you, it doesn't matter on an issue that he cares deeply about.
We're talking about the Zogby poll, everybody, with Dr. James Zogby from the Arab American Institute, that shows that Arabs are evenly divided in the race for the White House. I want to know what your thoughts are. Let us know. Kenneth Rushy said, "You're an African American. You've never been polled, and straight party ticket is down. You want to do that? Okay." And Greg Monday completely agrees with you, Dr. Zogby. And Greg Monday also says Vice President Harris must reach out to the Muslim community in Michigan. She's met with the Arab American community, the Muslim community privately. But then, of course, we remember when she had that event and she was being heckled, and she said, "I am speaking."
Mm-hmm.
Hush, I am speaking. And if you want
Mm-hmm.
if you want this the genocide to continue, she didn't put it that way. She said, then vote Trump in. I felt that was a little ham-fisted, but I mean, I
A
heard.
little ham-fisted, but hell, I'm not in favor of people heckling speeches. I've never been in that camp, and so I don't blame her when you're doing that. I mean, for God's sake, shut up and let her speak. I mean, that just, it doesn't accomplish anything for the cause to do that. It alienates you and alienates people from the cause you're supporting. But the meeting, let's talk about the meeting, because I was invited to that meeting, and
Okay.
I was told, basically, I told him at the end, I said, that's a clutch. That's not a meeting. And I'm not flying to Michigan, getting a car, driving to Flint. They told me they could get me 1 minute to speak, but you can't go over that because we're crushed for time. I said, I'm not doing that. She needs to hear your voice. I said, that's great, but I'm not
Wait, wait,
doing
wait, wait,
this.
wait. They gave Dr. James Zogby 1 minute.
Yeah, and this was a favor to me because they'd already set up the meeting with a few other people, and they said, we'll peel away a half minute from this guy and a half minute from that guy so you get a minute. I said, I'm not doing that. I have too much respect for myself and for the issues involved, and too much concern about this to do that. So I didn't go. It wasn't a meeting. You want to do a meeting? We sent them a list a month and a half, 2 months ago, right after she got the nomination, however the hell long ago that was. And I said, these are the leaders of the organizations, and I would like to invite you to meet with them. I think it would be important. They have ignored that. They've picked people that they want to meet, and I guess they were adding me to that group, and I just couldn't do it. I know the difference. I've been in this game long enough to know the difference between serious and not serious. This wasn't serious, and the proof of it was that right after that clutch, they did a press release that she met with Muslim, Arab, and they even listed some people who were at the thing who weren't at the thing because they, like me, were not going for a photo op. So you either want to meet with us or you want to get a press release out that you had a meeting that wasn't even a meeting. Again, the judgment calls here are problematic, and I don't believe this is her. I just don't. I believe that it is the consultant class that is running this thing, as is always the case.
Mm-hmm. But it's her campaign, though.
It is, and at some point, I always say that the way they govern is the way they run. The way they run is the way they govern. The decisions they make or don't make, if you are that captive of your team that you can't captain it and make, I believe that once you're in the White House, you're going to do that too. I mean, we know how Donald Trump's going to govern. It's exactly the way he runs his campaign, like a megalomaniac nut job. If she's afraid to make tough decisions, if she's afraid to buck the conventional wisdom and the consultants who say, you can't do this, you can't say that, don't do this, don't bring a Palestinian, blah, 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 then how do I expect her to, once she's in the Oval Office, to do differently? I need her to show independence and do the right thing.
Well, I mean, and this is a megalomaniacal nut job policy to have all these Palestinians killed. Officially, the numbers are 41,000, but the Lancet study puts them over 200,000.
Yeah.
I mean, no. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, this is, because we have to kind of get away from the comfortable class too, because you can get in the room. I mean, you're one of the most established, and really you're a giant in the party, and there are many calculations that keep you in the room as you continue to fight for the least of these. I love and appreciate that, because I need you there, but you got to listen to people who every time they call home, they don't know if anyone's going to answer the phone, or if they get a call from Gaza or West Bank and their whole family's been wiped out.
Yeah. And that was the young woman we wanted to speak at the convention. She's known Harris for 27 years, has fundraised for us since she was a district attorney, has lost scores of members of her family in Gaza. And they couldn't put her on the stage. And I do not understand why. They said, at one point, I kept asking why. At one point they said, well, they told us that if they had a Palestinian speak, there'd be demonstrations in support of Palestine on the floor. Hell no. The reason why there were any threat of demonstrations is because you weren't having a Palestinian speak. And then they said, well, she was a donor and it didn't look good because she was a donor. How many other speakers on the stage were donors? I mean, it all fell flat. There was no real reason why, other than the fact that I just think that this consultant class who run things and make the decisions have no imagination and have no clue as to what is happening out there with the Democratic coalition. It is not just an Arab American issue. It is also an issue for voters, for young Black, Latino, Asian voters. We're seeing it. We're seeing it in the streets. We're seeing it on the campuses. We're seeing it manifested in so many ways, and yet they just don't get it. This is a big issue for people.
Because Dr. Zogby, the young people are gone. They're gone. I mean, my brother Jonathan, who's one of your godchildren, he's in Congress now,
Mm-hmm.
and his son, who just came out of
Mm-hmm.
Northwestern University, told him. Jonathan said, "I had no choice but to sign on to that. He's one of the initial signatories to the ceasefire call in Congress, and
Mm-hmm.
he's been blocked from various business councils, which he needs for his district, but he's taking hits."
Mm-hmm.
And he said my nephew Noah said, "Oh yeah, Dad, you wouldn't have been able to come home." He said you wouldn't have been able to get in the door if you had not signed on to this. And he's in his early 20s. So I'm just where do they go from here? We don't have a month and we don't have time. And she's
Well,
so
here's the thing. I think that's really important to recognize here, and that is that uh, there was a period of time 20, 30 years ago where you had to do stuff early and get it out there. If she did something today, we see it in the polls 3 days from now. Not even. With social media and other alternative sources of information available, and stuff spreading as quickly and as broadly, as virally as it does right now, a gesture one place resonates and echoes across the country in no time at all. So there is no, it's too late to do anything. That doesn't wash. Anytime she did something that would be of consequence, it would make a difference. And so I'm not buying the it's too late, because I'm hearing that from people in the campaign. Well, it's too late. We just got to go with what we've got. I say, no, that's not true. That's not true. You could do something and it would make a difference, but they have to do something of consequence. That's what they have to do. Look, J.D. Vance was in Michigan earlier this week. And he said, I'm here in Michigan. I'm coming back many times. And I want to speak to Arab Americans. And I want to tell you that Donald Trump cares about Palestinian lives, and he cares about Israeli lives. And he wants to bring peace so that no more Israeli and Palestinian lives get lost. Now, that was bullshit, but he said it. And why can't Kamala Harris say the same thing? Even if she just said that, it would make a difference to some people. I'd want her to say more. I'd want her to offer some solutions. And I remember Tip O'Neill's story about when he lost his first election and he went to his neighbor next door and he said, "Did you vote for me?" And she said, "No." And he said, "But why?" And she said, "Because you never asked me." Having a little clutch after a rally is not the same as at the rally saying, "Arab Americans, I'm here for you. I want you to be part of this campaign." And I don't want to sell my community short by saying she doesn't have to do more. We could expect that to ask us for our vote. And that's something they've just, to date, have not been able to do in a public and very clear way.
what is the path forward? What is there anything that you see she could do moving ahead?
She could start there. And then two, I don't see any reason why she can't make a statement about the use of weapons that have violated U.S. law. I don't think she needs to use terms like arms embargo, but I think
Okay, you went out. We need to get you back. You said you think she should not use terms like Dr. Zogby. I believe he said arms embargo. Dr. James Zogby, I'm going to bring him up. Ronnie Patrice, we're going to keep Dr. Zogby here. But of course, Democratic operative.
I lost you.
Oh, no, it's okay. I brought Ronnie up.
Yeah.
I'm catching her before she goes to the doctor, but you now have to get all y'all in. But you were saying she should not use terms like, because I need you to skip into your managing mode, which you have done. What
you want me to finish that thought?
Yeah, no,
I was saying
we
that
didn't hear it. We didn't hear it.
She doesn't have to say arms embargo, which is too loaded. and smacks of like defund the police, which people said was open to too many interpretations. I would say in a very clear way so that people would understand that our weapons should be used in ways that are compliant with our laws, that we in our laws say should not use our weapons to kill civilians. That has happened, and I am opposed to it. That's all. I mean, it might be a big statement, but it's a statement that I think would work. And I don't think that there would be objection to a great degree in the Jewish community, but I think it would help her pick up support from people who right now are saying, well, where are you on this question? She's got to say something is the point.
Well, we don't. It's hard to believe, but it's been 4 years since 2020. We don't have any time. But there's hope springs eternal. I do keep hope alive, Dr. James Ogby. There's that's why I was asking you. What can she say? What can she do? Because she's got to do and say something. She can't just when because she's being queued up with these questions. Do you have any regrets? Is there anything you would do differently? And she's like, no. I'm like, no, they're giving you a moment to say, hey, I'm proud of our record. Of course, we could have done something better. No one's perfect. And we want to get out of the conflict in the Middle East. We want to lift people out of poverty. Please, yeah, that's not a dirty word. We want to make the middle class more robust. You want you want businesses, don't you? That's what I want to do. She can do both. I don't know who's advising her, but she's getting horrible advice, Dr. James Ogby. Horrible. And
I know,
because
and I've been trying to crack through and not succeeding. And they tell me, people in the campaign tell me, we took your ideas and we brought them forward, but they would tell me, but they never get through. And I know enough about this stuff to know that there are these consultants, these people driving this thing on top, who probably never even bring these options to her. Yeah. But like I said, she's either captain of the team or captive of the team. And she's got to demonstrate that she gets it and that she's going to make go in a different direction.
Given her politics, given her history, it feels more like she's a captive of the team. And that's what's unsettling.
It is.
Latrice.
Let's go to Rania. Hey, Rania.
No,
Hi.
I wanted her to say a little before you got out of here, Dr. Zogby.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, per the usual, I agree with everything Jim is saying. And I think he's exactly right. And in fact, we're seeing it play out. I mean, from Hollywood to DC, people who have not historically been vocal on our issues are saying exactly what Jim said. And that is, we should follow our own U.S. laws and international humanitarian law. It's that simple. And I agree completely that using the term arms embargo, no, truly, like, what does that even mean for the greater population? Most people don't know what that means. But if we say, or if she says, we don't need to say it, if she says we need to follow our own laws, any country that gets any financing, funding, or aid from this country has to follow the law. I think the average person understands that, even outside of our community. And so I think, Jim's exactly right. And per the usual, and also, I share the frustration, obviously, that he's naming as far as putting so many things forward and sort of begging. It's kind of what we talked about the other day. It's like, help me, help you. That's the situation we're in. We can't take nothing back to our communities. And frankly, that's what they're giving us. And just like, also, I think we talked about this last time too, just like Jim was talking about, the JD Vance thing. My God, is he full of it? Of course he is. Do we know that? Yes, we know that. But when people are struggling and trauma and hurting, they want to be seen and heard. And my God, did JD Vance make the Arab community feel seen and heard in Michigan? And it's terrifying to me. So, again, per the usual, I agree with Jim.
But you know, but the reason he's not terrifying to me, because number one, we've been here for hundreds of years, so I've seen all iterations of the J.D. Vances and Donald Trumps. So don't be afraid, because Reverend ran for president under the Trump of that era, who was Ronald Reagan. People, because he is smiling and mourning in America, and he looks so great, he was a frightening figure. This is a man who barely 10 years away from Dr. King's assassination opened one of his opening campaign events was in Philadelphia, Mississippi. They have no bus stop. They have no train stop. They certainly don't have an airport, but that is where they killed Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney and buried them in a ditch. So he was sending signals in 1979, 1980. So we've lived through this before. You can live through it. And ironically enough, we made tremendous progress up against that kind of resistance. And so that's okay. Plus, Trump is, I just think that with the shifting political sands, Ronnie Patrice and Dr. James Zogby, and this is not last year even. Who would have known that, as you said, Dr. Zogby, that the Arab American community would become the critical voting bloc? What did Reverend Jackson say 40 years ago? They are the secret weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, I mean, Ronnie, when Reverend won Michigan in 1988, not only was it unexpected, he won in a block of about six other candidates. He won by 56%. Mm-hmm. Because the Arab American community came in hard for him. The Black community came in hard for them. They formed a coalition. The Latinos who were there came in hard. The white working class came in hard. That coalition is still there. She's leaving them on the table.
Yeah.
And that's what's
absolutely
unsettling. I mean, he just said it. He said, look, is she the captain or the captive? And it's looking like she's the captive, because even her answers, this word salad, I'm like, what is she saying? Rania? Come on,
yeah,
girl.
and I agree. I feel like I'm just repeating everything Jim said, and I apologize, but he's a very brilliant man, obviously.
But the
reality is,
when you talk to me, what are you saying? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of pain and a lot of frustration. And even the people who are so angry that they're saying, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, there's sadness in it too. Like, that's like they would be there, but it's exactly what the young person said to you. I'm not going to step over 200,000 bodies. That's very real. So people feel backed into an emotional corner, and it's I don't want to be there, frankly. And Jim talked about, surveys versus polling, and that is very real. But there is a faction of people who are having this love affair with Jill Stein, and it makes me crazy. And it's not that it's anywhere close to the numbers that are being reported, but as I mentioned the other day, this is going to be another race won in the margins. And so when you've got this kind of a deep pain and anger, and the suffering continues, it's not like we're on the other side of it even. We're not on the other side of this going, oh, this is how we should have handled it. It's still going. And US UN ambassador yesterday saying some pretty strong words. And it's like, okay, well, now what? What else? What else you've got for us? Because that rhetoric is not going to save lives. That rhetoric isn't going to shift policy. And like it or not, it is a Democratic administration in office right now. And Kamala Harris is at the top of the ticket. So, there's all the excuses in the world, and frankly, they're not working. And again, just like Jim said, we've got all the space for anti-choice, borderline just Republicans in our party, but we don't have room for Arab Americans or Muslim Americans or Palestinian Americans, people who care about the communities. It doesn't add up. The math isn't mathing.
I'm trying to find out the resistance. I mean, even in this moment, because I've seen them trying to shut down Dr. Zogby, they've been trying to shut down the students, and they have put rules in place that are preventing students from speaking out on these college campuses. I mean, our First Amendment rights are going out the window over this issue.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
Yep.
tell you, even though they're pushing that down, Rania, Dr. Zogby, people are feeling it, and it's going to come out in a multitude of ways over time. People are angry about this. And
Yeah.
so I'm just wondering, it to be a captive of whomever, of these interests, and we're clear on what the interests are, that's not going to work either. I mean, Dr. Zogby, I mean, that's not going to work. That's not a good look for her. I mean, because she looks like she's a captive because I've seen her in these interviews, a couple of them, and when they ask her about again the regret or just what would you do anything differently,
You know
she
what Santita, I
yeah.
think about this. I think about this a lot because there used to be well, it still is Tweety and Sylvester, the comic book,
Oh my word!
and there would be the picture of Sylvester with the good one in one ear and the bad one in the other ear, telling him to do this, don't do this, and I can tell in Candidate when you see them answering a question, you can see their eyes roll back in their heads and think about, well, they told me to say this and they told me not to say that. And one of the saddest moments I had, I did a lot of work with Al Gore in the early part of in the first term, but then I worked with him in 2000 again in the campaign. And after he lost, he gave a series of speeches, and he would call me for anecdotes to use in the speeches. And I gave him a number of them. We talked a lot about it. And then after, he'd call me and say, how'd I do? Because I was the one who would say to him, everybody else would say, you did great, Al. And I'd be the one to say, you didn't read it before you gave it. And so he knew I was always going to be honest with him, right? So after one of the speeches, he called me and said, how'd I do? And I said, it was fantastic. You were on fire. And I thought to myself, I said, Al, if you had given a speech like that when you ran. And he said, you know the difference? He said, for the first time in my life, I feel free. And that hurt. It hurt because I know that that's what these guys are like. They feel like that they're caught in this. I have to do this. They're scripted. They're bound. They're tied up in knots. And that was a great thing about your dad was that he never was. It was like,
Oh, he was
he was
free.
always himself. And even when he felt pain over something and he didn't want to say it he would turn it into magnificent oratory. Like over the Hymietown thing, it's like he shone a light on the problem and it was an open public display of remorse, but also of let's move forward. These guys can't do that. And I, the consultants, and I know, Rania, you're a consultant, so I don't mean to pick on your profession, but the problem is that because you're not one of this crew, because you're not part of the group of 6 big consultancies that make billions of dollars every 4 years, they never lose an election because they always get their money. And that's the problem, is that they know the paycheck's coming. So it doesn't matter if there's no self-reflection about how did we fail this time. They just don't get it.
And I totally agree. And I dog on my own profession either. And I always have to preface, I started as a field organizer a million years ago. So that's in my blood always.
And you were a Bernie person.
Exactly. And that's what I kind of laugh to myself because I'm getting a lot of attacks online, which is kind of like being called a Democratic sellout, which is so, I laughed with one of my friends because I was like, man, if I was, I'd be living large. We all would, right? You and I both, Jim. Yeah. Like we'd be doing really well if we could just put that moral compass to the side. But I think that's exactly, and in fact, something I have heard specifically about the vice president is from people close to her, that she is not what anybody would consider sort of an expert campaigner, which I think I can believe. And so she tends to trust the people who've done it for decades. And the reality is exactly what you spelled and what you named, Jim. It is only that they're always going to win because they're always going to get that nice fat check, it is also that they are operating from the same exact playbook. The same thing that wasn't even true a year ago, quite frankly, that they're saying, nope, this is what you have to do. And we're going to make up the support. We're hemorrhaging, Santita, your word, hemorrhaging, by catering to the right. And like, oh my gosh. And the
Ronnie, she
reality
was more
is
enthusiastic about Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney,
yes.
I'm like, while she's campaigning with you, why don't you ask her about Project 25? This was 2025. This woman voted for Trump, with Trump 90% of the time. Excuse me, 89.5% of the time. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Are you serious
Yeah.
right now? No, I mean, no, wait. And this goes to her being a captain, because we saw how she ran. She did not do well as a campaigner before. We have to be honest about that. Okay, then and people have to be honest with her. This is not your strength. The math ain't mathing over here. Now let me show you what you need to do. Let me show you how you can be strong. This is where you are strong, Kamala. Stay right here, and then let the people who speak for you, who are not on CNN and MSNBC, they're awful. They never get anything right. They're stuck in Washington and New York. That is not where people live. Americans live in Montana. They live in Jackson, Mississippi. They live in Edina, Mississippi. They live in just outside of LA, because you can't afford to live in LA. They live they live in Vegas now because of taxes. Why are people in Florida in a swamp? Because of taxes. No, I mean, what are you doing? This is a formula for getting Trump 4 more years. And then, and JD Vance. Because I don't think he would be an active vice president. That was Peter Thiel putting him on the ticket.
Yeah.
Peter Thiel
wait,
hold on 1 minute, Dr. Zogby.
Okay.
I did a show on this yesterday. He wants to monitor women's menstrual cycles. Don't choke. That's what he's trying to do. And for these people, the information from Democracy Labs is out here. Why don't you get Deepak Puri on to talk about it? These are people oh my gosh, it's like they're leaving a win on the table, and it's like it's making me crazy. Dr. Zogby.
No. I had an interview in Rolling Stone right now. And it's,
sorry.
They are not going to like me, but I was pretty tough with the consulting class, because they are the political equivalent of what Ben Rhodes called the foreign policy blob. They are guys who have failed, whatever, and they just keep coming back. They keep recycling them. They're on all the networks. They advise all the candidates about a world that no longer exists, that they do not understand. We are no longer the shining light on the hill. We are no longer the beacon of democracy. We are no longer the superpower that calls. We are no longer the protector of international law. We are reviled among more nations than not. When you have UN votes that are 140 to 11, and the 11 who side with us are Palau and, in the Pacific, that are protectorates of ours, we're in trouble. On the political side, these are guys who've run campaigns in the past and have no idea, as Ronnie was saying, about what the electorate looks like today. They don't understand what's going on as a result of Gaza, with young Black voters, with young progressive Jewish voters, with young Latino and Asian voters, with people, Democrats across the board, who today, in the polling that is done, have a more favorable attitude toward Palestinians than they do toward Israelis. They don't get that. That's Democrats, almost 2 to 1. And they don't get it. And so they're making judgments based on elections 10 years ago. And the electorate is a today electorate. And they're advising her, you can't say this, you can't say that. Well, damn sure she can say it. She's got to say it if she wants to win. And after the interview in Rolling Stone came out, I had no idea he was going to do a transcript of the interview. I thought it was just a couple questions. But my daughter called me and she said, Dad, tell me what you really think. And I said, yeah, I guess I'm not invited to the Christmas party this year. And but that's good because I keep my pajamas on and stay home. But anyway, thank you so much, Santita, and thank you, Rania. And I'll be seeing you because I gotta go. But I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Oh, please don't thank me.
Thank
You know,
you.
I'm just glad that I'm glad that you were able to share with us, Dr.
And
J.
I got off the phone with you yesterday because your dad was on the other line because I'd called him to wish him happy birthday.
No, he put me off the phone, Rania. He said,
He did.
Santita, it's your father. Bye.
Bye. And you still had me on.
I
Bye.
love you. I love you. God
Thank
bless
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he hung
Thanks,
up in my
Jim.
face. No, he hung up in my face, but that's all right. We still love him. You know, I've got Dr. LaShawn and Trixie. She might not what she has been someone who's makes noise for change, and she's been part of this activist community in Chicago. She's also a psychologist. Watch it, Ronnie. To be careful, because she's always measuring what we say.
Listen, I'm a believer. Everyone needs therapy. Everyone.
And trust me,
Big
she
believer.
gives it every time she's on. I don't feel like she's taking notes on me. She just sits there with her hand clasped. Rania, I know you got to go, but you got to help me. And I'm wondering what can be done to help Kamala Harris, because I think that, you know, and I've been saying this all along. She is a captive of um of the people who brought her there. I mean, and this is where running in a primary, Rania, even if they had had that collapsed primary
Yes.
that they talked about, it would have helped her, because you get the reason Reverend could run so magnificently in 84 and 88 was because he had always faced opposition. It
Yep.
did nothing but make him so strong. There was nothing you could throw at him during his campaigns, because he had taken it all beyond being a product of the Jim Crow South, okay, and someone who fought it and was willing to go to jail and die.
Yeah.
It makes you, all of these things make you stronger. Protecting her, not protecting her, keeping her away from people is not helping her. So she comes up with, she does not come across in these interviews that she's had over the past week or so. She's someone who's incredibly bright, very, very intelligent. But you see her like this. I'm with Dr. Zogby. I can hear, I can look at, because I've been there, and I've seen her look and try and calculate. He's right. Reverend was free, so he said, you know, look, I'm willing to. Jimmy Carter, President Carter said of Reverend, he's willing to live or die on what he says. He's always going to tell you what he believes. It keeps you free. It keeps you free. I'm not saying that, and you're going to say some things that might disappoint your supporters, but you find a way to give them a ray of hope. You say, you know what? I'm proud of what we've done in this administration. And and then by time, enumerate the things that you've done. Ketanji Brown, number one, I got in here. Ketanji Brown Jackson. I wish we could have done something on police reform. We were blocked. I wish we could have done something on voter rights. We were told, don't touch that, because we would further, we would pour gasoline on this fire, because we got a case there is a case in Georgia. We don't want to prejudice it. I mean, there's so much that she could say, and she's saying none of it. And I mean, and now I'm watching Black Twitter. Look at her like, are you serious? And then I'm watching, I'm going to send you what this young Palestinian activist said. He broke my heart. He broke my heart, Rania. He said, I'm not going to step over 200,000 bodies. Rania, I said, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I could, no, I was like, I'm gonna follow this guy. Because
And
that's civil rights and human rights. I can't do that. Rania.
I have to, the thing that you're speaking to that we're missing, because and this is so typical. And as Jim said, I'm a consultant, but I don't operate in this way. But that's why
they give you a multi-million-dollar contract, Rania.
Exactly. But the status quo wants to put candidates, including the vice president, in a box. You stay in this box, and what's missing in that box? It's humanity, it's authenticity. And I believe that the vice president has loads of humanity and a lot of authenticity. I really do. I've seen it play out in certain situations and circumstances, but she's being put in a box. But again, at the end of the day, and you said this too, it's her campaign. And I know staff and consultants and all, they keep information away, but there's no chance in the world that she is not seeing what is happening in the streets and in the communities. There's no chance she's not seeing this. And so this is where, while I understand the blocks and parameters and the guardrails that some will put around candidates, she's still seeing the truth.
Yeah.
And it's incumbent on her to lead with her heart and with her humanity. And I'm sorry to sound so, I don't even know what to call it, but I believe that's what's missing in our country and in this world, is that humanity. And she's failing us all, frankly, when she's not doing that. We need her to do that. A lot of us, and I know I mentioned this last time, a lot of us are putting that pressure on her and on her team. And I have, like I said, I have this deep belief that if they just, if they would let Kamala be Kamala, we'd be in a different situation. And
You
that's
know
what
what?
killed the part.
You know what you learn in acting class? It's what they call the beat change. She should sit back in that seat and go 1, 2, 3. You know what? I'm not going to get this chance again. This is what I'm going to say. Because what you all have been doing, what should have been a runaway race for me, has got me in a dead heat, which means
Yes.
I'm losing to Trump right now. Because see, the champion you must knock out. He's already been president. He's the incumbent. You got to knock him out. She's not doing that. So what you have to do is you have to say, you know what? I want another kind of world. But I can't do it by myself. I am dealing with people. I want to be president of all America, and some people are, I want to be president of all America, and so I need to hear from all of you. What do you want? Tell me what you want.
Yeah.
Tell me, do you want to change the policy in the Middle East? What do you want us to do at the border? What do you want? And how do you want us to do it? Let me know. Vote about it.
Yeah.
She can say, but the people who are giving her the advice, what did he say? These are because I know my father would sit up there and give these people classes. Because Obama and Clinton, they ran from the Jackson playbook. Everybody knew that both of these guys would look at video of Reverend and they would study him. Because he's an absolute genius. He is. I'm not talking about my daddy, y'all. I'm talking about someone who's just a genius. That who had figured it out. But part of that genius was a genius team, and Dr. Zogby was on it.
Absolutely.
Even,
Absolutely.
although I just, the last belongs to you, because I'm just trying, because what she's saying is not working right now, Rania. It's not.
Yeah. And again, we've got a year of polling to prove it. A year. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And just like that, the last final thing I will say because I do got to run, but is you're exactly right. This should be a runaway race, not a head-to-head, not a within margin of errors race. But that's where we are all across the country. And that is, that's not where we should be. And it's so self-inflicted in so many ways. And she's just got to separate herself from the president. I know that's hard. I know there's this whole, there can only be one president at a time. Listen, when the world and the country's future depends on it, the quorum goes out the window as far as I'm concerned.
The president separated himself from her. He didn't defend her against DeSantis. He said, well, I actually get along with DeSantis, because don't think that he is also not a little warm about how he was put off the ticket.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly. Of course.
He didn't say, now, Governor DeSantis, you should be respectful, because she is not in the same position she was a year ago or 2 years ago. She is now running for president. So it was entirely appropriate for her to call you. It would not have been as appropriate unless she had gotten permission for me to call when she was my vice president, strictly. But now she's a Democratic nominee. So for her to call you and to express concern, just as a Republican nominee called you and expressed concern, was appropriate.
Yeah,
But he did not say
absolutely.
that. He threw her under the bus. He did.
Absolutely.
Girl,
We
look,
can have a whole other show. Okay. I love you.
no,
I'll see
no,
you soon.
you know what? We're gonna do another show because we got to because people look at these shows and I want you, and if you all look at my friends on her team, look at this and take this to her because we want her to win.
Yes.
We want her to win.
Yeah.
And we have a sneaking suspicion of how she can win. And she can't follow y'all.
Mm-mm.
Okay?
Mm-mm.
Because you don't win elections. DC and New York don't win elections. People out in these streets win elections. Is that not right, Latrice? Dr. LaShawn Latrice? Yeah. Dr. LaShawn Latrice, I was going to give you the final word, but it's okay. Everybody, please get.
I'm here, Santita.
Is that our elections are won in the streets, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay, all right. But I gotta wish Tyree a happy birthday and Kenneth a happy birthday. I'm sending you all so much love today. Hey, hey,
Yay.
hey, Kenneth, Tyree, happy birthday to you. Mwah. Sending you all love. And thank you for listening, Dr. Latrice. Everybody,
No problem. No problem.
have a great start to your day, and everybody go to vote.org and keep it locked right here because we're going to be showing Vigilantes Inc. Over the next couple of weeks, and we're going to have a showing at Rainbow Push. We're just coming up with the date because Greg Palast will be in town, Dr. Latrice. So we're gonna have to organize some people so we can have a great discussion about that movie with him after the showing is over. You want to do that, Dr. Latrice?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Of course she does. I love you all. Happy birthday, Tyree. Happy birthday, Kenneth. Sending you all
Santita, that's
so
my husband, Tyree. It's his birthday today.
happy birthday, Tyree. Oh, happy birthday, Tyree. Sending you so much love. Hey, have a great birthday, Tyree. And First Lady, have a great birthday, Dr. Latrice.
Thank you.
Sending you so much love. Love you, everybody. Morning stars, afternoon, midnight stars. I love you. See ya on the next episode of the Santita Jackson Show.